Wheelchair basketball is basketball played by people in wheelchairs and is considered one of the major disabled sports practiced. The International Wheelchair Basketball Federation is the governing body for this sport. It is recognized by the International Paralympic Committee as the sole competent authority in wheelchair basketball worldwide. FIBA has recognized IWBF under Article 53 of its General Statutes. The IWBF has 82 national organizations for wheelchair basketball actively participating in wheelchair basketball throughout the world, with this number increasing each year. It is estimated that more than 100,000 people play wheelchair basketball, from recreation to club play and as elite national team members. Wheelchair basketball is played by boys, girls, men and women. Wheelchair basketball sees tremendous competition and interest on the international level. Wheelchair basketball is included in the Paralympic Games. The Wheelchair Basketball World Championship is organized 2 years after every Paralympic Games. Major competition in wheelchair basketball comes from Canada, Australia, the United States, Great Britain, the Netherlands, and Japan. History, 1940s to 1960s. In 1944, Ludwig Gutmann, through the rehabilitation program at the Stoke Mandeville Hospital, in Aylesbury, Buckinghamshire, England, adapted existing sports to use wheelchairs. It was known as wheelchair netball. At around the same times, starting from 1946, wheelchair basketball games were played primarily between American World War II disabled veterans. Since then, the sport has spread throughout the world. The Stoke Mandeville Wheelchair Games, held in 1947, were the first games to be held and included only a handful of participants, and few events. Growth in both the number of wheelchair events and participants came quickly. Wheelchair netball was introduced in the 1948 Games. In 1952, a team from the Netherlands was invited to compete with the British team. This became the first international Stoke Mandeville Games, an event that has been held annually ever since. Wheelchair basketball, as we know it now, was first played at the 1956 International Stoke Mandeville Games. The U.S. Pan Am Jets team won the tournament. 1970s to the present. In 1973, the International Stoke Mandeville Games Federation established the first subsection for wheelchair basketball. At that time, ISMGF was the world governing body for all wheelchair sports. In 1989, ISMGF accepted for its former wheelchair basketball subsection to be named International Wheelchair Basketball Federation, also known by the acronym IWBF. Full independence came in 1993, with the IWBF becoming the world body for wheelchair basketball with full responsibility for development of the sport. Over the following years, IWBF membership grew in size, and based on the number of national organizations for wheelchair basketball with active programs, the International Federation configured itself into 4 geographical zones: Africa, Americas, Asia, Oceania and Europe. Wheelchair Basketball World Championship. World Championships for the sport have been held since 1973, with Bruges, Belgium being the first host city. The first ever World Championship for men was won by Great Britain. In the 11 first men's World Championships, 6 times have been won by the United States, Great Britain once, Israel, France, Canada and Australia. Canada has won 4 of the Women's World Championship titles, and the United States 2. Rules. Wheelchair basketball retains most major rules and scoring of basketball, and maintains a 10-foot basketball hoop and standard basketball court. The exceptions are rules which have been modified with consideration for the wheelchair. For example, traveling in wheelchair basketball occurs when the athlete touches his wheels more than twice after receiving or dribbling the ball. The individual must pass, bounce or shoot the ball before touching the wheels again. In some countries such as Canada, Australia and England, non-disabled athletes using wheelchairs are allowed to compete alongside other athletes on mixed teams. Classifications. Wheelchair basketball, based on the sport of basketball, introduces some adaptations to reflect the use of the wheelchair in the game, and to harmonize the different levels of disabilities players have. All teams which compete above a recreational level use a classification system to evaluate the functional abilities of players on a point scale of 1 to 4.5. Minimally disabled athletes are classified as a 4.5, and an individual with the highest degree of disability would have the classification of 1.0. In places where teams are integrated, non-disabled athletes compete as either a 4.5 in Canada or a 5.0 in Europe. Non-disabled athletes are not allowed to compete internationally. Classification is an international regulation for playing wheelchair basketball, where competitions restrict the number of points allowable on the court at one time. The 5 players from each team on a court during play may not exceed a total of 14 points. See also, Wheelchair Basketball at the Summer Paralympics, European Wheelchair Basketball Championship, Wheel Power, Real. References. Jerusalem Post article about wheelchair basketball, Hoop Dreams, learn about wheelchair basketball and find activities, the 50th anniversary of wheelchair basketball, a history, by Horststrack Kendall, Waxman Publishing Company, New York, 1996, World History of Wheelchair Basketball, British Wheelchair Basketball, History, National Wheelchair Basketball Association, external links. International Wheelchair Basketball Federation, Wheelchair Basketball on the International Paralympic Committee website.